Chucky Hepburn's to the portal. Let's talk about it. What's next for the Badgers? How big of a loss is this? How big of a problem? How much trouble is this program in? I'm shook, y'all. But we got to talk about it. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Thank you so much for tuning in as always. Obviously, now we're here good and bad, right? This is not the show that I want to do. These are not the conversations I want to have. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. That is a fun one to do. I'm a big fan of Monopoly, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. Let's talk about it. Obviously, everybody already knows what's happened. I'll throw it up on the bottom too. Chucky Hepburn enters the portal. Career 3,300 minutes, 3-year starter, 1,000 points, 300 assists, 160 steals, and like 80 of those steals feel like they came in big moments. I just start with this one, man. This hurts. This hurts. Like, I love Hepburn's game. I'm a big Chucky Hepburn fan. I want to start there. Before we talk about the Badgers, we're going to talk Greg Gard. We're going to talk about what's next. We're going to talk about a program that I now think is in a ton of trouble. I think these are bad signs. But I want to start with Hepburn. I love the dude's game. I'm a big Chucky Hepburn fan. I've been a Hepburn fan since he came into the program, right? That bank shot against Purdue to win it. The hair, the defense, the game tying shot this year against Purdue, right? In the Big Ten tournament. Like, the dude has made so many plays for Wisconsin. And I'll just say this first. I'm still a Chucky Hepburn fan. Like, I will root for him wherever he goes. Like, I don't begrudge players. Here's my first big take. I don't begrudge players for finding opportunities that they think are better for them. I don't begrudge players at all for that. It's not the player's responsibility to make the best of a situation. It's the university's responsibility, which when I say university, it's the athletic department, it's the NIL side, it's the coaching, it's the player development, it's the roster they put around a player. It is the athletic department's responsibility to create an environment that players don't want to leave. So they're not looking for a better opportunity. So I don't put any of this on Chucky. Like, I'll root for him. I'll continue rooting for him. I'm very appreciative of what he's done in 3 years in Madison, and I'll always fondly remember. Listen, Chucky Hepburn to me is he's Jordan Taylor, he's Brad Davidson, he's that type of Badger guard that just feels like a Badger, right? He's in that tier for me. Chucky Hepburn is a Badger. He's got a Badger tattoo on his arm. Like, he's a Jordan Taylor type of guy. He's a player that him playing somewhere else with a different uniform is going to feel really weird, but I don't begrudge him for it. You know, like whatever it is, and there's a lot of reasons that people can go into something and transfer, but whatever reason it is, people have the right to find a better opportunity. That's what the transfer portal is here to do. That's what we do professionally all the time. How many of us have left our jobs for a different one because we felt there's a better opportunity? I'm not going to begrudge a player for that. I'm going to root for him. Again, it is the university's responsibility, from the athletic director on down to the assistant coaches, to create an environment and an ecosystem that players don't want to leave. And this offseason, it's not over. The offseason is not over, but like, this has not been a good offseason for Greg Gard, to put it lightly. And I think you got to do a better. We are here to react, and we usually do therapy sessions. If you tune into the show, we do therapy sessions after wins and losses. This feels like a therapy session type of show. I could even play the audio. I'm not going to do it though, but this is a big loss. Let me know in the comments, but I feel like this is the first transfer, football or basketball, that has really shook me a little bit. That's really made me think, ooh, that one really hurts. Like, somebody came in and took an asset that we really needed, right? That really felt like he was part of the culture. And maybe I'm missing somebody. That's certainly possible. Let me know if I am missing somebody. But this feels like the first player where I'm like, oh, man, that's a real bad sign. Like, you can't lose to Chucky Hepburn, right? All right, let's get some comments, because again, this is a community show, man, and that's what this is all about. Ryan Bliss says, old Greg, you better be on fire with the portal players he grabs. Better throw the kitchen sink at the 25 classes. Buckle up. We're in the free tag area now. Yeah, I do have, listen, on the whiteboard, I'm in a free tag season. Yeah, that dude's, listen, I love Daniel Freitag. We're going to need minutes from him next year. I will say this, and Ryan hits on a comment or a thought that I'm also here. The offseason's not over. This is super disheartening. And I'm not here to paint this in any type of good light. This is not a good thing. You don't get better by losing a Chucky Hepburn. Period. Like, end of sentence. But the offseason's not over. And I do need to see what happens next. We do have some comments from Greg Gard we're going to put on the show, but Ryan's correct. Like, Greg Gard needs to be on fire because he went into this offseason with a shopping list. Not like a little shopping list, like a real shopping list. He went into the offseason, I need a 3, I need a 4, I need some depth. Now it's like, I need a 1, I need a 3, I need a 4, I need depth. Like, he's going into Walmart with a giant shopping list, and he better come out of Walmart with bags full of stuff because otherwise this season's going to be problematic, man. This is from Jason Noun. This is an interesting point. This is why in-state recruiting is important. In-state players that play like Klesman are less likely to transfer. I don't think Hepburn is a reflection of this. Now, I have heard, and we'll do another show on this and continue talking about Hepburn and what this means and the impact. But I don't know if Hepburn was getting the same type of offers at Wisconsin as he's getting at some other schools. And let me just put this out there: if it's a money thing, and I'm just speaking in hypotheticals now because I don't want to speak on this particular situation for sure and put out something there that may not be true but just in a hypothetical, if another school is offering a lot more money, where does the fault lie there? Is that a Greg Gard thing? I don't know. Like, that's something that can be difficult to compete with, and that's a reason some players transfer. Not everybody transfers because of the head coach, is what I'm saying. Does the head coach play a role? Absolutely. This is all connected in ways. This is from Dister72. Obviously, something going on. Remember the controversy with Gard a couple years ago, the locker room recording? That was the Orlando Tucker thing. Yeah, it's not been a good offseason. Oh man, what does it mean for this roster and this team, and what about the timing? So let me start here with the timing, because Frankie Fiddler, who we talked about, good friend of Chucky, played high school basketball with Chucky, big target for Greg Gard coming out of Oklahoma, and I thought we were going to get him. I thought we were going to get Frankie Fiddler, and honestly, other sources have said it was pretty close. He went to do the Michigan State visit, okay, just recently, last Friday, I believe it was. He went to Michigan State. He visited, delayed his commitment. I think here's what I think happened, and if we're just connecting dots, I think Chucky thought Fiddler was coming here. Chucky was probably upset with a few things in the program. Fiddler is not coming here, and I think that might have been the last straw with Chucky. I think Chucky might be following Fiddler to wherever he's going. And I've heard a couple schools in the mix. I've heard Louisville. I've heard Michigan State. I've heard Kansas, which by the way just got AJ Storr. Kansas landed AJ Storr. But I think that's what happened. I think if Fiddler came here, I think Chucky probably stays. This is just a guess on my part. That's nothing I got from anybody, but this is frustrating, man. Like, and it sucks. Again, I'm kind of processing with everybody else here, and we'll get more comments up, but it just kind of sucks. Like, Chucky has been the heart and soul of this team for a while, and it's not as easy to replace that as it is the talent, right? Chucky is a culture guy. Chucky's a guy who you could count on for the last 3 years. Chucky's a guy who knew the system. And think about what he had here. Think about Chucky had comfortability here. He had a starting spot. He had minutes. He had a legacy. He had a fan base that really liked him. Those aren't easy things to give up, which tells you there was something really greener on the other side for him in his mind. And that might worry you as a Badger fan, right? If you can't keep a guy that you've had for 3 years in your culture, that's really liked by the fans, that has a starting spot locked up, that has a lot of reasons to stay in Madison, and he likes Madison. I know that. For him to say, no, I'm still going to leave. This wasn't a disgruntled player. This wasn't AJ Storr, who wasn't disgruntled. Like, AJ Storr had no ill will towards Madison, I've been told. But, like, he was here for a year and he left. AJ Storr was more of a transplant. Chucky's been here for 3 years, ingrained in the culture, and he still left. That's not a great picture. All right, we're going to take a quick break. and come back. It's just all your comments next. We're going to get the community into this because that's what this show is always about, man. All the voices. Let's talk it out. A lot of frustration, understandably so. This is a blow. Losing Chucky Hepburn is not something I thought would happen. And it's something that we need to look at and maybe reevaluate parts of the program through that lens. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our sponsors and our good friends of the show over at Yahoo Finance. Shows like this wouldn't be possible without sponsors like Yahoo Finance. And I've talked about it before. It's incredibly useful for me because I can put all my stuff up on one dashboard, all my different accounts, my sign in. Like, it just makes it simple. And sometimes I just need simplicity in my life. I've talked about my idea for a kitchen cabinet. It has just one big cabinet and all my food is stored in there. I don't need all these other cabinets. I want it all in one spot. I called it the everything cabinet. It hasn't really kicked in yet. Maybe someday, but that's what Yahoo Finance is. It's my everything cabinet for finances, and they do it incredibly well. For over 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Right now, comprehensive financial news and analysis. Visit their brand behind every great investor. That's yahoofinance.com, the number one financial destination. Yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. All right, let's keep talking here. Let's get comments because that's what this show's about. Is my camera goes out of focus. That's just symbolic of what's going on today. My camera's going in and out of focus. It's not every day you lose a 3-year starting point guard to the portal. Okay, let's get some comments in here. See who hates me today because I have defended Gard in the past, and Don't Badger Me says, guys, it's 99% about the money now. It's only going to get worse. Who can pay more? No two ways about it. Every team will look different every year now. Very frustrating. Yeah, NIL is it, right? Now, here's the thing, though. Money isn't everything. And I can tell you this, and don't badger me. I'm not trying to dissuade you on this. I can tell you I've talked to recruits. I've talked to the fathers of recruits. I've talked to people who NIL is not the top priority, who are in this recruiting process. That's directly from them. So money, it's not everything. And Wisconsin does have a strong NIL department. Like they can and do well. But they're not going to pay top dollar for basketball guys when there's basketball schools who are much more desperate to win on the basketball court. A school like Kansas, Georgetown, Xavier. I mean, I'm not saying Chucky's going to any of those, and I'm not saying money is the primary reason Chucky's even leaving, but I'm telling you there's schools that are always going to outbid other schools, and Wisconsin's probably never going to be at the top of either of those, but Wisconsin can still be very competitive because A, not everyone puts NIL at the top of the list. I can promise you that because I've talked to people that have said that and told me that. And B, there's other things Wisconsin can offer as well that factor into it. Not everybody leaves because of the coach. Not everybody leaves because of NIL. Ken and L, my buddy, who was first on the John Blackhole train, says, Ryan, let's hop on the train together. It's over, Fire Gard. Let's just get into this one. The Fire Gard thoughts. I know where a lot of people are in this, and people are going to hate me for this. They're going to say I'm trying to be contrarian or whatever. I'm just not the type of guy who's going to, like, if you're looking for the guy who's going to be really hot take, that's not me. And if you came into this offseason, which I did, saying I don't think it's time to fire Greg Gard, then I'm not going to, in the middle of that offseason before the dust is settled, say it's time to fire Greg Gard. Right? That's just how my brain works. You lost Chucky Hepburn. That is a huge blow. I'm not sugarcoating anything here. That's a failure. Like, wherever that failure lies, you lost a 3-year starting point guard. You lost one of the better point guards in the conference. You lost a culture guy. These are red flags everywhere. But I'm going to give him an opportunity for sure during the offseason to see what he replaces him with. And that's just where I'm at. I need to see. I'm not going to make the decision in the middle of the offseason is where I'm at. That's where my brain goes. I want to see who, because now listen, the job gets harder for Greg Gard now. Right, the job, he already had a tough job. You already got to replace Wall. You got to replace Storr. You got to add more depth. Now you got to also replace Hepburn. Are you going to find 3 guys coming in that are the equal of Hepburn, Storr, and Wall? I'm telling you, probably not. That's an incredibly tall task. You're not doing that. Let's just be realistic. You're not going to go to the portal and find 3 guys that equal that. But can you find pieces and then hope internal development with other guys and Daniel Freitag? Maybe. I just need to see. I need to see what happens. And that's how my brain works. Like, because I don't think if you went into the offseason thinking he should stay, I don't think this singular thing is the reason you'd say fire him. I don't know. That's where I'm at. Brent Roll says, what the heck is going on? Sky is falling Thursday. Yeah, man. Brett, it is not a good day. I just went and got a sandwich to eat some of my feelings away. Some cookies, too. Derek says he's frustrated, says fire Greg Gard. Zach Petterman, man, this hit right here. This sucks. Zach just sums it up for me. This sucks. This sucks. This is also the reality of college basketball, right? But I think for Badger fans, we've seen players come and go. We've seen Nick Evers come in and leave. We've seen some defensive linemen leave. Obviously, we've seen linebackers leave. We've seen 3 cornerbacks transfer. Like, we've seen people come and go. This is the first guy that feels like a foundational piece, right? That was part of the Badger culture. And I mentioned in the first part, like, he feels like a Jordan Taylor to me. Like, he's part of that Badger fabric. And this is the first guy that's left where I've really like, that stings. Lob City, heartbroken, getting tough to be a Badger fan. Yeah. I know a lot of people whose favorite player is Chucky Hepburn. Right? A lot of people. And again, I love Chucky. This doesn't change that. I love Chucky, and I respect people going to make moves that they think are a better situation for them. I have no issues with that. That's life. Again, it's the university's job to create an environment and an ecosystem. And when I say university, it's from Chris McIntosh to Greg Gard down to the assistant coaches, right? And if you're not creating an environment where players are staying, that's a failure somewhere. And it's probably a failure in multiple places. But again, the offseason isn't over. This is probably a good time to put up some of the quotes from Greg Gard. He said, and these were quotes that Jeff Petroikis put on Twitter, he's been a big part of our program. In today's college basketball, players are making transactional decisions all over the country at every level. Transactional is an interesting word there, if anyone else is picking up on that. Gard said, we're dedicating all of our energy right now to finding the next fits for our program. Well, yeah, you darn well better be, man. In fact, minutes after talking to Chucky about this, I was already pursuing another talented point guard. I mean, great. Listen, I would say this, talk's cheap, right? Talk is cheap. Yeah, you should be pursuing another point guard, but it's better if you just don't lose the one you have. And again, I think there's a lot of factors that go behind that. But yeah, now he has to go and redo the roster. This is a rebuild now. The Badgers are coming off a 5 seed, and they're in a rebuild now. How many pieces on this roster do you look at next year and say, that's a piece I feel incredibly confident about, right? There's not enough is my point. This is a rebuild. This is no longer a retool. I think you could argue with Hepburn and Crowell and Winter, Blackwell, Frite coming in. It was maybe a little bit more of a heavy retool. This is a rebuild. Like, you're replacing 3 starters and 3 institutional starters, like probably the 3 most pivotal players on the roster, Storwall and Hepburn. When you talk from an impact standpoint, you're replacing the point guard, your leading scorer in Store, your point guard in Hepburn, your versatile forward in Wall. Like, this is a major rebuild, and Gard has to nail it. He has to knock it out of the park. Oh man, what a frustrating day. Let's get more comments in here. Gabe Ramos said, I just joined and saw a deep breath from Ryan. Yeah, Gabe's a good dude, man. I always appreciate you jumping in. He's also on the fire Gard train. I mispronounced his name. I apologize. Casagendo? I apologize. From the chat, I'm seeing Chucky's getting a large bag from another school. One UW couldn't match. Sad state of college sports today. Yeah, I've heard. Listen, Chucky's going to be well compensated wherever he goes, because that's the going rate for a 3-year starting point guard. This is just hypothetical here. If the reason he's transferring is a money thing, then you have to wonder what's going to happen the next time the Badgers. What happens with Blackwell in a year when he develops along the path that we think he could develop, and he becomes that maybe elite 2-way wing. Like, at some point you got to. If it is a money thing, I'm not saying it is. But if it is, you got to find the resources to keep the players that you grow. I'm not saying at Wisconsin you need to find the resources to go out and poach high-level players, but you have to be able to keep the guys that you grow and you develop and our culture fits, right? And that's a Chucky. Cannon says, yeah, I will cheer. Oh, forever love Chucky. 402 forever. I will cheer for him anywhere. Yeah, I love Chucks. Cannon, man, I'm right there with you. I love Chucky Hepburn. Obviously, I'm not from the 402. People who follow me know I'm from the 715, but I love Chucky. I'm going to cheer for him. I got no ill will. He gave Wisconsin 3 really good years. Christian Gross says, are you still in on Gard? I think I talked about it. I need to see what happens this offseason, because I don't think one player is bigger than the program. And in other words, I wasn't going to fire him if he lost Chucky Hepburn if I thought he should stay. Now, if he doesn't replace him, like if he can't fit find the fits to replace the roster losses, that's a different story. But to me, he still has the opportunity the rest of this offseason to see what he's going to do. And I think, to me, that's fair. Oh, man. This is so frustrating. Yeah, Beach Bum says, no wonder Frankie Fiddler put off his commitment. I think that was the final straw. I really do. I really think that was the final straw. All right, let's take one more quick break. We'll get a bunch of your comments, talk a little bit about what could happen next, what needs to happen next on this roster. Daniel Freitag, I'd like to bring him up a little bit and talk a little bit about how big of a role he might be needed for next year and if that's too much to put on a freshman. But we're going to take a quick break and talk a little bit about Monopoly Go. Listen, I love Monopoly. I absolutely love Monopoly. Monopoly Go is really the mobile version of the board game we all love. If you're competitive, and a lot of us are competitive. We're competitive with the Badgers. We're competitive with a lot of things that we do. Monopoly Go is a great opportunity for you to use some of that competitiveness, wreck other people's boards, team up with friends, climb leaderboards, play Monopoly across a bunch of different boards on mobile platforms. It is a fun, unique twist on the classic game. Right now, you download Monopoly Go free on App Store and Google Play. Make it fun, wreck your other team's boards, or have fun with your friends. Climb up leaderboards together. Monopoly Go on the App Store and Google Play. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the roster now. And I mentioned, what do we feel really good about next year? Some of this, there is internal development potential. And I'm not here to paint bright clouds on this rainy day, but I think Blackwell's going to take a step next year. I think Winter can take a step. I think Freitag's coming in. And Freitag could be one of the keys to all this. I was thinking he's probably a 10 to 15 minute guy because Hepburn's going to be here. If Freitag can come in and play 20, 25 minutes, 20 minutes, that's a win. And maybe it lessens the need it doesn't lessen the need. This is just me coping. You got to go get a point guard. You got to go get a veteran point guard, and you got to get somebody who can play at a high level. Right now, this team's not making the tournament next year as currently constructed without, I would say, two really solid additions. This isn't even a tournament team next year. And if that's the case, then that's probably it on Greg Gard, right? That's probably the book, because roster management ultimately is on you as the coach, period. You see how I tried to cope there for a second, and there's just no coping. This is a borderline disaster. Battery Notes After Dark is in the chat. Ryan Harris is the GOAT. That's false. Y'all are so much smarter than I am. I don't even know what else to say about this. I don't even know what else to say. I loved Hepburn. I'm going to cheer for him. Ultimately, this is a failure from the athletic department not creating a situation where people are staying at the university. You lost Dorr, you lost Hepburn. You got to go replace this offseason. And I think we'll probably wrap it up there. We'll do more shows going on this. There's a bunch of comments in here. I'll take a lot of these comments. We'll just wrap them up and we'll do a live show. How about this? Let's do a live show tonight. We'll put the chat out. If anybody wants to call in and join the show and just talk about where you're at in the Badgers, where you're at on Greg Gard, Chucky Hepburn. We haven't done a actual call-in show in a while. I think since last summer, those were the good old days. Let's do a call-in show tonight. Let's talk about where everybody's at on Greg Gard, the program, Chucky Hepburn. This is a tough one, man. Ultimately, you lost a 3-year starting point guard, and those are really hard to replace. So on Wisconsin, I will say this. I do want to see what happens next. I'm not completely out on this offseason, but the job got a lot harder, and I don't think you're going to be able to replace a guy like Chucky Hepburn in the portal. So on Wisconsin, thank you guys so much for tuning in, as always. Really, really do appreciate it. I'm seeing if there's any last comment here just to go out on. John Gavy says, I feel like Blackwell will take another step. We'll take a step out of the program too. I thought you were saying I was going to take another step. No, Blackwell can't leave too, John. We can't have too much negativity here. All right, we'll wrap it up there. On Wisconsin, thank you guys so much for jumping in, and we'll talk later.